Hello, my young Mississippi scientists. I hope that everything is going well with you all. And I want you to understand now you should be feeling kind of comfortable about being a scientist because you know that we can make observations. We've talked about making those observations. We looked at the quantitative observations, where those are observations that we have to use tools and we count. So quantitative observations have numbers to them. And then we talked about those qualitative observations. Qualitative observations are observations that we've made using our senses, our hearing, our seeing, our smelling, touching, and tasting. All right, so then we went on from talking about those observations that we make to applying the practice of making observations to observing a phenomenon. So in observing a phenomenon, whether it be a man-made phenomenon or a naturally occurring phenomenon, we look at that phenomenon as it's happening in the environment. I remember we looked at the sun with the three parts to it, and we looked at the lizard that was changing colors, and we also looked at the airplane and how it stays up. But then looking at the phenomenon, we were able to ask different questions because something happened to our apple. So we were able to observe what happened to our apple and was like, wow, how can we fix this? Why did this happen? How can we move on and try to keep this from happening again? But those questions that we had and those questions that we asked prompted us to want to do an investigation. So in wanting to do an investigation, we need to understand that, well, the first thing I want you to understand is that you just don't run out and do an investigation sometimes, but for the most part, you want to know a little bit about what's going on. So we have a whole process, or we have some other actions and some other things that take place and some other understandings that we need to get when we're making observations. So in this particular session, we want to make sure that, of course, you're remaining safe, wearing your gloves and wearing your eyewear, because today we're going to talk about doing investigations. And doing investigations, you really need to protect yourself. If you have something that, like a lab jacket or an apron that you can put on, because you want to protect your clothing, protect your body, you want to make sure that you have on some gloves, because you just never know, your hands might get into something and you want to protect your hands, and you also always want to protect your eyes. So make sure that you can find some eyewear. If you don't wear glasses, have some goggles or just some eye protection. But in this particular session, we want to discuss the process of making a valid scientific investigation or discovery. And then we want to make sure that you understand that in any investigation that you do, there are these things called variables. And look at that, listen to that word, variable. And I hear the word vary. Do you hear the word vary in that? All right, so what do you think it means to have something that varies? What if I say, the temperature varies from day to day? What does that mean? Okay, what do you say? It means that the temperature will change from day to day. Good job. Good job. I think the National Science Council is looking for a great scientist right now, and you would be a perfect fit. Awesome sauce. So, yes, but when we say variable, these are things that change or that can change. And I want you to understand what a variable is and how important a variable and the different types of variables, how important they are to actually designing and conducting a scientific investigation. And then we want to talk about how we collect data, or just look at the kinds of data that we can collect. And then what do we do with that data? Because after all, at the end of all of our observing, asking questions, and investigating, we want to make sure that people that we love, people that we know, they can benefit from the hard work that we've put in. So, and that's what scientists across the nation do. They make observations, they observe things happening in the environment, they ask questions about those things that they see happening in the environment, and then they design and conduct investigations And once they design and conduct investigations, they come back and let us know what they found out. And we have to listen to them. So science rules the world, and you're going to be a part of ruling the world. All right, so let's move on. Why do we investigate? Well, we investigate because we want to make sure that we are looking at relevant features of a phenomenon. You know, what catches our attention? What makes this something that we need to keep on investigating and keep on finding information about? And then, of course, we want to make sure that, hey, I want to test my thinking. I want to test my knowledge. We have these things in our heads called a mental model or a mental conception. What am I thinking? Well, is my thinking right? After I observe something, after I look at it, is my thinking right? So I'm going to test my thinking. And then we make predictions based on what we see and based on what we observe. We make predictions. I want to see if my prediction is right. You may have heard that word hypotheses in school, and your teacher said, well, I need you to create a hypothesis, get you an educated guess. All right, so, but I want you to think about this from a purely investigation. I don't know, and I want to find out. How many of you all can follow me on that one? Good job. Let me show you the wisdom. All right, so what are variables? If we take a look at this information here, we see variables, again, just like the temperature changes, variables are anything that can be changed or controlled or manipulated in a scientific investigation. There are mainly three kinds of variables. There are other kinds of variables, but we have an independent variable. I'm independent. I don't need any help. I can do it by myself. The independent variable is the variable that is changed by the person. I am the person that controls what happens to the independent variable. That's what I'm going to do. I am going to put a certain type of gas in my car, and that'll be relevant later. I'm going to put a certain type of gas in my car. Then the dependent variable is the variable that changes or that we have to measure, but it only changes based on what you do. If we, grow our plant in a certain color of light, how will the plant grow? I changed the light. Did the plant grow tall, or did it not grow? Did it stay short? All right, so the dependent variable would be the variable that is observed for changes, and it is often measured. Then there are the controls. What are the controls? Controls are stubborn. Sometimes they're like, I love my granddaddy. He was so funny, and I just love spending time with him. But he wouldn't change often, so he was like the control. But control variables are those variables that will not or do not change, or they really don't, affect the outcome of the experiment itself. So those are your three kinds of main variables. Again, we have the independent variable. That is the variable or the factor in the experiment that the person who's doing the experiment controls or changes. The dependent variable, the person who's doing the experiment doesn't do anything to the dependent variable because it's going to change on its own based on what treatment you apply to it. And then the control, it doesn't change at all, okay? So we'll talk about those things in just a minute here when we take a look at these sample experiments. So let's go ahead and look. Here, in this particular example, I see that I have some flowers that have been grown in different colors of light. What is it that you notice about these plants? Okay, right here. Good job. You say, well, the plants seem to have different heights. Well, they do seem to have some different heights. What else do you observe? Remember, we're always making observations. So you say they have different heights. Is that a qualitative observation or a quantitative observation? Since you just said height, that would be a what? A qualitative observation. How can you make it a quantitative observation? Right. You can get your ruler out and you can measure the height. And once you measure the height, you can actually put some numbers to how tall something is. But based on what we're seeing here, which plant seems to be the tallest? I have a plant that's in blue light, red light, a combination of red and blue light, and then there's just natural white light. So the natural white light, did we do anything to that? You know, is that just what we see? Did we change anything there? Okay, so no, we did not change anything there. So which variable do you think that would be? Would that be a control, an independent variable, or would that be a dependent variable? Remember, we didn't do anything, doesn't change. What was that again? What did you say? You said control, right? That would be the control. So what would be our dependent variables in this particular situation? Or what would be the dependent variable in this particular situation where we have the lights and the different colors of lights and the plants growing? Okay. I think I kind of agree with what you're saying. The plants are growing at different heights because of the light. So if they're growing at different heights because of the light, then is the light the independent variable or the dependent variable? Good job. The light is the independent variable and the height of the plant is the dependent variable. That's again, the light is the independent variable because where did the light come from? What did you do? You say you went to Home Depot and got some colored light bulbs. That's awesome. All right, so you got some colored light bulbs. You control that. Now, did you control the height of the plant? No, you did not control the height of the plant. The plant grew based on the color of light that it was was in the environment. So again, the independent variable, and we can make a list. In this case, our independent variable, and we're just going to say IV for independent variable, is going to be color of light. And then our dependent variable is going to be what? Height of the plant. Okay? Our independent variable would be the color of the light, and our dependent variable would be the height of the plant. And then the control was the white light. How many of you agree? Let me see a show of hands if you agree. Awesome sauce. So that means everyone understands what we're doing right here. All right, so let's take a look at this example. And in this particular example, I've given you the information here. It's my graduation. My dad just bought me a car, and I want to know how far I can go with that car. I want to know which gas station or which label of gas company is going to give me the best mileage or let me go the farthest with my car. All right, so I have Exxon. I put 20 gallons of gas of each type in the car. And with the Exxon gas, I was able to travel 200 miles. With the Texaco gas, I was able to travel 110 miles. I didn't go very far, right? That was just down the road. And then with my Chevron gas, I was able to go 198 miles. So based on the information that we have here, what are my variables? What is my control? What is my control? And what is my independent variable, my ID, and my IV, independent variable, and then my dependent variable. What was the same each time? Good job. The 20 gallons of gas was the same, and the car was the same. So those are things that we control. And then my independent variable would be what? What was my, I'm sorry. My independent variable would be the 20 gallons of gas. And my control would be the car. And my dependent variable would be the miles I was able to drive. All right, so I put 20 gallons of gas. That's my independent variable. I control that. And I was able to go a certain number of miles. So based on that information, which gas station are we going to? We're going to go to the Exxon gas station because we can go the farthest with that. All right, so that's independent, dependent, and control variables. Now, let's get back to what happened to my apple. So we're going to conduct our own little experiment here. But we want to make sure you understand the process. We ask questions, or we make observations. We ask questions. We have to do a little background research here and there. And then we conduct this investigation. So remember what happened to my apple? Oh no. It was so sweet and it was so good, but then it got messed up. I let it sit out and it turned all brown and ugly. So I don't know if I really want that. But how can we make this stop? Well, I did a little background research. And in doing a little background research, I found out that there are some things that you can put on your apples to kind of keep them from turning color. And what were some of those things? Well, these are things that you can really find around the house. One thing was some salt water. So I made a salt water solution. According to now, to make these solutions or what have you, you want to make sure that you have or seek the assistance of an adult, and you have your protective equipment on, and you're protecting your hands, your body, and your eyes. So I have a salt water solution. I did a little research and found out that it might work. Then I have this solution, this honey water solution. That sounds so sweet. Bees might be attracted to the honey water solution. What you think? I don't know. But, so a honey water solution. And I have a lemon juice solution. So in my background research, I went online, asked some people or what have you. I found out that, hey, these are some things that just might keep my apple from turning brown. All right. So, through the magic of, and I already prepared some slices that I put into these various solutions. And I'm just going to take a minute and we're going to compare. So, this is what happened to my apple. That's what happened to my apple. Now, let's see which one of my solutions is going to be most effective. First off, let's identify our variables. I have my dependent variable, my independent variable, my dependent variable, and then a control. In this particular case, what's going to be my dependent variable? All right, so what am I looking for? What's changing? What am I expecting to change? Well, we're just going to say the brownness of the apple. All right, how brown does my apple turn? Or does it turn brown at all? And my independent variables, what are these going to be? This is going to be my anti-browning solution, I will call it. That's what I control. All right, so I manipulate those. And then my control is simply going to be the thing that I did nothing to. I did nothing to. We did nothing. So don't be upset and mad. We did nothing to our beautiful apple. We did nothing. It just happened naturally. And because it happened naturally, what type of phenomenon is that? It is a natural phenomenon. So we just a apple slice. All right. So I have an apple slice here. I have apple slices here that I've already prepared. This is my honey apple slice. This is my saltwater apple slice. And then this is my lemon juice apple slice. So what we did in our investigation, we have to make sure we have our procedures. I had my solutions. I let each apple slice set in the solution for a determined amount of time. And they all have to set in the solution for the same amount of time. And my amount of time has been roughly 3 hours. And we're going to compare. Let's look at the honey. Which one looks the whitest? Which one looks the whitest? This is my honey apple slice. How does it look? There's some brown. Remember, we're always making observations. There's some browning there. That's a little browning. If we compare, look at that. Can we see the difference? Wow, we can see the difference there. That's amazing. That's my honey. Let's compare. This is the salt water solution. Let's compare those two. Let's look at that. All right, that's really nice. All right, so, and then we have the lemon juice solution. Let's compare the lemon juice to our control, which is our regular apple. So these are all good examples. But which is the best? Which is the best? Let's compare the three now. Let's compare the lemon, the honey, and the salt. And then we can make a choice. They all look pretty good, don't you think? So how would we measure the brownness of that? What would you suggest as measuring? Just do a visual check? We could do a visual check. We could do a taste test. We could do a taste test. You all are really rocking and rolling with this science stuff. I thought you said science was hard. Wow. I think I want you all to be my future professors. Who's going to be my future doctor? Because I got some aches and pains in this knee over here. So I need you all to hurry up and get this science thing down pat. All right, so if we compare the three, we see that they all look pretty good, but they all have some discoloration in them as well. I think, based on what my observations tell me, I think I want to take out the lemon and the salt, and I think the honey looks best. There you go. Run and tell Mom, if you're going to make my lunch and put apples in it, please soak them in honey water before you pack my pail. Awesome sauce. You all have been great. This is how we conduct a scientific investigation. We make observations, we ask questions, we do a little research in the background, we identify our variables, and we design our experiment, get our procedure together, and we come up with our results. And then once we have our results, we do this again. And once we do it again and get the same results, then we communicate that information. Thank you all, and remember, It's about science.